Welcome back to another episode of After the Whistle. I'm Kellen Voss.
And I'm Noah Genson. Let's get into it.
The Grand Valley State women's basketball team picked up 2 more wins at home this week as they traveled to beat Saginaw Valley State 84-54 before beating Northwood 2 days later 87-73. Cassidy Bench had a career-high 38 points and 23 rebounds in only 26 minutes. She bested her previous career highs by 6 points and 2 rebounds as she is very likely to break the single-game record of 44 points and 24 rebounds before her illustrious career is over. The scoring was a bit more spread out in Saturday's game, with Natalie Koenig leading the way with 24 points. Bench, Maddie Daly, Jen DeBoer, and Victoria Hedemark each managed to score in the double digits. After the impressive wins, the Lakers improved to 23-2 on the year as well as 16-1 in the GLIAC. They look to pick up 2 more wins at home this week as they face Northern Michigan on Thursday, February 21st, before matching up against Michigan Tech 2 days later. Thursday's game tips at 6 p.m., and Saturday's game tips off at 1 p.m.
The Grand Valley State men's basketball team also picked up 2 wins this week, beating the Cardinals 81-64 before beating Northwood on Saturday 67-63. Thursday's game featured a healthy spread of scoring as Jake Van Tubergen led all Lakers with 22 points, with Hunter Hale and Jeremiah Ferguson throwing in 19 and 18 points respectively. Saturday's game featured yet another comeback by the Lakers, as after trailing by 10 in the first half, they used stout defense to hold the T-Wolves to 33% from the field in the second half to secure the win. The men's team has improved to 14-11 on the season and remains sub-500 in the GLIAC at 8-9. They have 2 more home games this week, facing Northern Michigan at 8 p.m. on Thursday before playing Michigan Tech at 3 p.m. 2 days later.
Finally, the Grand Valley State men's and women's track and field programs have posted some impressive individual and team performances at the GVSU Tune-Up this weekend, preparing themselves to compete in the GLIAC Indoor Championships this weekend. Grand Valley State Sports Report has more.
Yeah, the week before the conference meet, we call the meet the tune-up because we're just trying to fine-tune some things. We sat a lot of our kids that are in a good position going into next week, trying to get them rested up, ready to go for the GLIAC Championships up at Saginaw. But still, we had a lot of positive things out of the meet. Bobby Goodwin, great throw in the weight throw. Sets her up well for next week and on into nationals. Lexi Duncan improved by about that much, 2 centimeters, so not much distance-wise, but that bumps her up about 2 or 3 spots on the national list, so hopefully that puts her in a position to hopefully be safe over the next 2 weeks and be ready to go at the national championships in a couple weeks. So, and then people like Anna Obi, just fine-tuning. The shot putters, Erica Lechner, Emma, both did really, really well for where we're at. So.
I felt pretty good. Yeah, I've been going hard in the weight room, and I think that's what really made me successful this week. The next meet, hopefully, I can throw another lifetime best, move my rankings up on the national list, and come back and fight for my title. I mean, I'm going in ranked 2nd, but I came in ranked 2nd last year, so I just got to do what I did last year, come ready to compete.
On the guys' side, some of the highlights, Hunter Weeks finally got him back to where we know he can jump. He's really struggled the last 3 weeks, so got over 211. That should be safe and into the national meet, so that was really, really good to see. Justin Scavarda had a great night in both the shot in the weight with season best and in a good position, so feel really, really good with where he's at. Marcus Lovers in the pole vault had a lifetime best, so very good for him. And then, we have a lot of freshmen that probably not going to get a shot to compete next week at the conference meet, so good to see them end the season on a positive positive note and in a good position as they regroup and head into outdoors. So men's 800 was strong again. Matt McLaughlin looked good. Derek Egley right on his shoulders. On the women's side, Sarah Russman improved by another half a second. So hopefully we keep that momentum going on into the conference championships.
Today I felt a lot different than normal. It was the last meet here in the Kelly for me in GV uniform. So it was something I had to come out and do. You know, to quote the great Baker Mayfield, I woke up feeling dangerous this morning, so I had to capitalize on it, and we did. So my approach has been the same for 3 years now, and it's just the little things. If I do one little thing wrong, I'm off here or off there. So just to put everything together, I'll have a great meet. A lot of times we jump from short approaches. That way I'm not putting a whole lot of stress on my body. I don't lift at all this time of year. So pretty much just short approach stuff, and then we do a lot of, I'm in the training room a lot, doing a lot of exercises, and that's pretty much it. I don't do a whole lot.
And then at this meet, we always highlight our seniors. You know, the outdoor season, never know what we're going to get weather-wise in April at the Al Owens Classic, and then we also have some kids traveling. So we know we got all our seniors under the Kelly Family Sports Center roof. It's 72 degrees and dry in here, so it's good to honor our 28 seniors that have done so much for our program over the course of their career. You know, everything from national champions to All-Americans to individuals that have just worked their rear end off in the classroom and on the track, being positive role models, great mentors, great leaders. You know, these individuals are getting degrees, going out in the real world, doing incredible stuff. So very, very thankful for our 28 seniors and everything they've done for our program, and will continue to do over the rest of the indoor season on into outdoor season. Yeah, it's a conference championship, so it's what you know, the majority of our athletes focus on and prepare for and compete for. You know, the women. We need to find the right focus and motivation. You know, we're probably on paper 100+ point favorites. You know, because of our balance and our depth across the board, you know, we can go in there and go through the motions and win a conference championship. But we've got to challenge ourselves to find greater motivation, reaching personal best, making the national meet, and just finding competitive greatness and competing at a high level. And then the men's side is just totally opposite. Ashland ranked second in the country. Look really, really strong across the board. Their sprint crew is the best it's ever been, the deepest it's ever been. Of course, their throws are strong as they've always been. They got a presence in the jumps that they haven't had the last few years. So it's going to be a great battle on the men's side. It'll probably be a 10 or 15 point swing one way or the other, and whoever shows up to compete and take care of business will come out.
Both the men and women's teams will compete in the GLIAC Championships this weekend, where they will travel to compete at Saginaw Valley State.
Swimming and diving is heading to Cleveland, Ohio to compete for the GLIAC Championship. We'll have more on that on next week's show. And that's going to do it for us here for GVSU Sports. I'm Noah Genson.
And I'm Kellen Voss, here for the rest of the crew, all game, all season, always on After the Whistle. Welcome back to another installment of Every Month is March. I'm Kellen Voss.
I'm Mike Mahaffy.
And let's get started with our favorite team in college basketball, the Michigan Wolverines. Sadly, Michigan lost to Penn State on Tuesday, but recovered with a win on Maryland. But before we go to that win, let's talk about your thoughts on the loss, Mike.
Yes, it's a Big Ten game. So, yes, it's going to be very competitive, especially the fact that it was at Penn State, and Michigan has proven this season that they having slight struggles on the road this year, but you can't lose to a team that only had 8 wins at the time.
Yeah.
Like, Penn State is not good, and Michigan just from the start came out that game and just did not want to play. They had that late comeback like early in the second half, and then Penn State kind of just took off. And then there was a slight excitement at the end of the game, but there was no realistic hope that Michigan was coming back.
It says a lot about the Michigan basketball program that a loss like this, it's just higher expectations now. Like a loss like this, just into the fact that we're now contending for national championships for the first time in a long time. It's significant that loss is a little bit blown up. It shows also how reliant they are on that defense being elite, because you showed the cracks in that defense were shown by Penn State's guards, and Michigan wasn't hitting shots offensively, and that kind of showed off the recipe as to how to beat Michigan. Teams will definitely use that film in the tournament when they face them, I would say.
The one, if I were going to take a semi-highlight from that game, is the fact that, if I remember correctly, I brought this up last week, is the fact that Charles Matthews is starting to step up. I think he had 24 points against Penn State, so he's starting to take a bigger role, which he kind of had a slump going out throughout the season, but he's starting to kind of step into his role that was expected going into the season.
And when you get into Big Ten tournament play, when you get in NCAA tournament play, you kind of need that guard that can say with 3 minutes left, hey, I'm going to score, I'm going to get a few buckets, I'm going to take the lead here, and Charles Matthews can be that guy. All apologies to Xavier Simpson and his hook shot, but he's not going to be that guy. I don't think Jordan Poole's quite there yet. Iggy's a freshman, so you don't know what he's going to do on a big stage. But I think if Charles Matthews can be that guy, the NBA guard, I'm a believer of the Mark Titus philosophy when it comes to NCAA tournament teams, where if you have an NBA quality guard and a good defense, then you automatically have a chance to make a national championship. And the way Charles Matthews has been playing, I could see him in an NBA team.
He
could be an NFL team. He could be a great wide receiver. But in NBA, on all honesty, though, he's playing like an NBA player right now. He's playing like a guy who, arguably, this draft is one of the weaker ones we've seen in a while. But he's playing like a guy who could make the lottery in this year's draft, I think.
The only thing that kind of scares me is when he's kind of getting hot in a game. And when he's starting to feel himself putting in some shots. I think I saw a couple in the Wisconsin game and a couple in the Penn State game where he'll just start jacking up threes that are just, he's getting like double covered, like just ugly looking. Like he kind of gets a little too overconfident in his shooting ability, because we know he's not a knockdown 3-point shooter, but he can put them in when he wants to. I think a lot of times he starts to force it and thinks that he's finding a rhythm, but kind of struggles. But then he ends up finding his way out. I just think his shot selection can kind of waver in and out.
Last thing we have to mention as Michigan fans about that Penn State game, last time we lost on the road at Penn State, 2012, one of the last games for the Big Ten tournament. Everybody said, hey, Michigan's going to be that team that loses in the first round, and look what happened. So that's the thoughts I have on that. Going into the Maryland win, you saw a little bit of that same struggles defensively in that first half. Maryland was able to just keep fighting, keep bursting threes, but then Michigan had that stretch in the second half, led by my man, John Teskey, who was knocking down threes, getting key buckets inside. When Xavier Simpson or Matthews gets to the free throw line, they do a really good job of distributing the ball out to either corners or dumping it down to Teskey. I think that showed off really well in the Maryland game. And coming back to Chrysler and getting that win is huge for Michigan as a team in terms of recovering from that loss, I would say.
Yeah, I think you definitely touched on everything to take away from the game, and the fact that they were able to bounce back from that loss to Penn State and able to beat a pretty okay Maryland team this year says a lot for that Michigan
And then they go to Minnesota tomorrow. Weird court, weird stadium in general. It's kind of a hard place to play, but I don't believe Minnesota's been that great this year.
No.
And then Michigan, then obviously the matinee game. 3:45, Michigan versus Michigan State. That's going to be a great one. Speaking of Michigan State, we haven't been so hot on them on this show, and they've continued to show us that we don't have a right to be hot on them.
It goes back to talking football about them. Their football team just struggled with their injuries, and going into this week, one of their predominant players, Nick Ward, has a hand fracture after last game, and currently it says he's going to be out indefinitely, which, realistically, he'll probably be back for the tournament, but something I just don't fully comprehend, like being injured and taking the rest of the season off and then coming back right before the tournament or right during the tournament. He's
definitely not going to be 100% in the tournament.
It's going to be a struggle. And then the fact that now that they've lost for arguably the rest of the season, two of their top 3 leading scorers, when Langford got out, they're going to struggle scoring the ball besides Cassius Winston going out through the season. So how is that going to affect kind of their seeding going into the tournament?
It's really going to show the depth that this Michigan State team has, and quite a lot of years, one of the things that I fear as a Michigan fan going into playing Michigan State is that depth, that 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. But this year, it doesn't seem like those guys are that much present, I would say, on Michigan State's team. Just with as many injuries as they've had, obviously it's hard to be in that situation and to, I would say, recover from those injuries. But even this year, I mean, before those guys went down, Michigan State was only playing 8 or 9 guys a game. And so now to see them lose those guys is going to be tough for them.
And then the fact that they had that 3-game losing streak, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they've bounced back with a couple wins to see how they go from here with the injured Nick Ward, to see if they can bounce back and push through the rest of the year, and then they have the big game against Michigan.
If they can beat Michigan on Sunday, though, all the problems are erased.
Yes.
If you can go in to Chrysler and beat one of the top 10 teams in the country, I think you can say that the depth issues are still a problem, but it shows that the talent you have on the floor is still there. What are your predictions for that game, would you say, on Sunday?
I think just the way how dominant. I mean, realistically, yes, I'm a Michigan fan, so I know how rivalry games can go. But I still have to give it to Michigan, the fact that they're playing dominant basketball this year. With everybody stepping up the way that they are, I think you got to give it to Michigan.
I think it helps a lot that it's at Chrysler because Michigan plays really well when they're at home, especially this season.
This season,
if it was the bright lights of Breslin and you had Iggy and Poole and Livers like getting yelled at on every missed 3 in Breslin, then I'd be a little more worried about it. But the fact that it's in Chrysler, we can control the environment. If Poole, if Livers, heck, if John Teskey hits 2 or 3 threes, that place is going to be rocking. And so I, as a Michigan fan, have confidence for that game. But it's going to be an interesting point to see where each of those 2 teams are at about a month away from tournament play. So
I was going to say this game I think is definitely going to. I think we're both kind of to that point where we're trying to figure out what these teams are going to look like going into tournament time, and I think that game's really going to define how that goes.
Absolutely. And then the one college basketball story that we for sure have to touch on is the fact that Duke came back from over 20 points,
which was the biggest.
Down 20 points in the last 9 minutes to Louisville and still came back and won. That's ridiculous.
That was the biggest comeback either in Duke history or NCAA history, one of the two.
And the crazy thing is they didn't even have, when we talk about the 3 guys, Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, you looked at the box score and those guys all had they had decent games, but none of them went off. In other words, Cam Reddish was the one that they were turning to light it up and come back to hit 3s at the end there. But to show that they had that bounce attack and show that they can come down from a 20-point deficit like that is just scary to think about some tournament time.
I was going to say, I think just the fact that they've been able, or that game they were able to prove no matter how far they go back, that they can come back from anything.
And there was no gimmicky slapping the floor. There was no we're Duke, we're gonna buy into the hate. They were just playing good basketball, and they were playing well together. That zone defense works well for them just because of how many athletes they have, and turning the ball over to Reddish and Barrett on the offensive end with Zion just making crazy athletic plays all over the place shows that it has shown this season that it works really well.
I was gonna say, for as young as a team as they are, they've shown great maturity.
Oh, absolutely,
well together.
yeah. All the press they try to poke questions at them and they just get nothing out of Zion gives them nothing, Reddish gives them nothing. It's just they've shown maturity and they are for sure the team to beat in college basketball right now, no doubt about it.
I think though at least one of the last things we should touch on before we go is the fact that Tennessee's been number 1 for quite a while now.
They got it handed to them by Kentucky this weekend.
Kentucky, they won by close to 20, I think. They gave it to them pretty well. I just think that says how much of, yes, Kentucky is a 5-loss team right now, but for as developed of a program that they are in basketball, that when it comes tournament time, they still need to get the respect that they deserve.
Absolutely, and to see them go in. That game was at Tennessee, I believe. Correct?
I think
so. Yeah, it was at Tennessee. To see them go into that environment and play as well as they did was crazy. I like the quote that Admiral Schofield had after the game. He just showed great resiliency, being like, I'm sure they had thoughts in their mind of how when we beat them last year, they really looked over the film. It was a great quote by him. I mean, no bitterness, no trying to throw shots at him. Just great class there from the Tennessee program. And it seems like those guys really got a good thing going there this year. Rick Barnes was seen as a very mediocre coach at Texas, but to see what he's done with that Tennessee program is actually quite astounding to me so far this year. We haven't touched on them a lot on this show, but they've been the number 1 team in the country for the majority of this college basketball season, I would say. So there should be a hard out come tournament time for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of Every Month is March. Tune in next week. We'll probably be talking a lot about the Michigan State game that happens one day previous next week's show. But until then, I'm Kellen Voss.
I'm Mike Mahaffy.
Howdy, folks. I'm Joe Bielanski,
Noah Genson.
and this is Football Ain't Over. You thought football was done with the Super Bowl. Oh, it's February, it's gray, we're going to cry. No, no, no. The AAF is happening as we speak. They were dumb enough to give me a segment, so good Lord, let's talk some AAF football.
Let's do it. What do you
right.
want to start with, Joe?
So we are into week 2.
Yes.
After yesterday, after 2 games from Saturday and 2 games from Sunday, this is how the West looks. We got the Arizona Hotshots, 2-0. They're pretty good. Then we got 2 teams, San Antonio and San Diego, are both 1-1. And then the poor Salt Lake Stallions are 0-2. They stink.
Yeah.
They're at the bottom of the West. It's pretty hard to be at the bottom when there's 4 teams, you know? And then in the East, we got Orlando Apollos, Steve Spurrier, old ball coach. Everyone knows him. They're 2-0.
Great offense.
No, they're looking
Orlando.
good. They are looking good. I like what I see. And then we got the Birmingham Iron, who are also sitting at 2-0. You got Trent Richardson. That's about it. Then we got the Memphis Express and the Atlanta Legends, both at 0-2. Oh boy.
I put my allegiance with the Legends to start the year, so I'm not liking where the Legends are sitting at the moment.
All right. As someone who's pledged their allegiance to also another bad team, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
You can't be called the Legends and like not have proven anything. Like I don't like that name. Like it's cool. They got cool uniforms, but all the things you could think up with Atlanta and you come up with Legends, I don't like it. That's setting them up for failure. They're never gonna win an AAF championship.
I'm gonna be honest. I like the color scheme. I thought
Yeah,
it looked pretty
good.
cool.
It is good.
I looked at the roster, thought I recognized some dudes, so I figured, you know what, they're my team.
No,
But I watched them early on in the season. I think they played the Apollos in game 1,
which was bad.
And I switched. Mid-game, I switched my allegiance over to the Apollos. Actually, so.
You can't do that. Come
it's
on,
fine.
man.
It's
You gotta be a man of your word.
It was like the second. It was like the second quarter,
All right,
man. I hadn't watched any games. I had to see.
You think I've watched any games before I picked
You
the team?
were planning the season out much
That is
more than
true.
I was.
Thought went into me picking the fleet, so you're right about that.
But with your fleet, there was a quarterback change.
Well, yeah, because now I get this is my guy. I'm horrible with names, so don't. You'll know who I'm talking about. The former Arizona State quarterback, Mike Bercovici.
Yes.
Close enough. So he started week 1.
He was the one who got lit up.
Yeah, that went viral.
If
So,
anybody
like,
remembers that out there.
That's also good publicity for the AF. That tweet went around or whatever. The dude, that game, I don't know if his head is too small or what, but he lost his helmet like 5 times.
Yikes.
Yeah, well, he stinks. So then they went to Philip Nelson. Didn't help him. He stinks too. They scored the first touchdown of their franchise's history with 10 to go in the 4th quarter yesterday.
In their second game ever.
Yeah.
All right.
But still,
Slow start offensively.
They both stink. Fun fact about Philip Nelson: beat the crap out of a dude when he was at Minnesota.
Oh.
Then he transferred to Rutgers because of that. And then they were like, "Oh, you stink. You're a criminal." And he went to Eastern Carolina.
So he traveled a lot. He's
he's used to it. But no,
Yeah.
The fleet need to figure it out. Mike Martz is their head coach. If you follow NFL football, everybody knows Mike Martz. He's a legend. He's bulging out of his shirts because apparently the front office people can't get him like a triple XL. They only just give him a large, so that's crazy. But no, I like the AF. I think it's good from a developmental standpoint because Daryl Johnson, he's right now the general manager of the San Antonio Commanders. I want to say Commodores. I don't know what the difference is. Doesn't matter. But anyways, this is his first front office gig. He's like, I eventually want to get to the NFL. So this is a developmental league, not only for players and guys looking for second chances, third chances, whatever, just not wanting to give up football. Everybody from the refs to the coaches to the executives, this is all a learning opportunity to get to that next level. So I think that this league is going to be huge. I could see it expanding. I want to see it expand where it becomes a legit farm system for all 32 NFL teams. You know?
I absolutely agree with you there. I think I watched the first weekend of football. I didn't watch it this past weekend, but watching that first weekend of games, you saw some names that you were very familiar with. You saw Greg Ward. He was out there playing wide receiver, former former Houston quarterback. You had Denard Robinson, a former Michigan guy. You see all these guys that are still trying to make it into the league, and I think it's going to turn into a good minor league system for the NFL. But one thing I wanted to ask you, with one thing that you told us when we were talking about it on the radio show, was that it's going to be a big offensive league. We've talked about 2 quarterbacks that have lost their or have struggled. Another guy you want to bring up, you have Hackenberg stinks in all caps. And so with the quarterbacks not playing well, the offense hasn't been showing out as of late. Do you think that's something to be concerned about with the AAF?
No, and I'll give that time credit, because the problem, if you have guys who make it to a training camp and end up getting cut, but it's their reps are limited, so everybody's developing. The offensive line play has been trash. We've seen quarterbacks taking hits and having to run and doing wacky things. Yesterday, Philip Nelson, he from San Diego Fleet, threw a ball over his shoulder.
Yes,
he was getting chased,
that was
and
one
he
of
just kind of toss it back so he doesn't lose the yards. So
another viral video that went around.
Yeah, so there's going to be goofy stuff, but I think that'll kind of fix itself. Once we start getting around week 4, week 5, where these guys are getting the practice reps and being able to be with coaches and having an opportunity that they maybe didn't get when they were in the NFL because they're practice squad guys, they're third stringers. That's just the way the NFL works. If you're not a number 1 guy, you're just not getting the practice time and those reps. So I think that we'll see that, change and get better over time. But yeah, with the Christian Hackenberg stinks. When I was picking a team, I was like, ooh, you know what? Maybe Memphis Express, they'll be my team. Mike Singletary is their head coach. Obviously one of the best linebackers, all-time Bear, just all-time football guy. But then I saw who their quarterbacks were, and I was like, nope, I'm good. But that's the problem. Memphis's pitch was Christian Hackenberg, football's back. He's back. The dude stinks. Granted, this week he had some cool plays. He took a helicopter ride. He was diving into the end zone, got hit, got spun around. That's always neat. But when it comes to the actual things that a quarterback needs to do, such as look down the field, make reads, and quarterbacks, throw, he is awful. He is so bad. And I was excited, maybe Christian Hackenberg. He stinks. If you can't even play in the AAF, yikes.
Yeah, that I guess that's just my biggest concern with it, is that with the quarterbacks not really having big performances early on, especially with teams not being able to prepare for them. That's what they talked about week 1, is that this is going to be just a game of making adjustments throughout. And so I figured that the offense would be able to really take care of some defenses early on, especially with their motto being it's an offensive-based league. That's what I was looking forward to most, was the offense, and the fact that it's not there just yet. I know it's only a couple weeks in, but it is a little bit concerning, just from my a casual fan's point of view.
Yeah, and talking to lack of offense. So we've seen a lot of good running backs emerge. One of my favorite from my San Diego Fleet is Jaquan Gardner from a D2 school, Humboldt State. This dude, he's a boulder with legs. It is unbelievable. You thought Maurice Jones-Drew was a solid type running back. He a little guy, but just stout. This dude blows him out of the water. He doesn't wear gloves. That's old school move. This dude is awesome. So I'm in love with Jaquan Gardner. He's the best. He's so fun to watch, but there's a ton of good running backs in the league. I mean, Matt Asiata is fans of teams in the NFC North. We know that name with the Vikings. He's on the Salt Lake Stallions. So, there's guys who've had NFL careers and in there. So there's a lot of familiar names, and it's just fun to watch. And
you brought up Trent Richardson with Birmingham. I believe Ty Isaac from Michigan. He's also on the Iron as well. So there are a lot of big names that you will recognize watching the games. One thing you can do during the games that we were talking about before we started filming was the new fantasy game. And I saw some commercials for that, but just explain that to me, how it works, because you've been using it actually.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a huge way. They got to kind of be gimmicky and come up with these things to get these fans, and I think that this is huge. So I don't know how they do it. Not a technology guy, but somehow it's live, up to date. So traditional fantasy, you're like a GM. You pick your team, you set your lineup, and that's it. It's out of your control. But with this, you play head coach, where you try to predict the plays. Are they going to run? Are they going to pass? What side of the field is the ball going to go to? So this is all happening live action. You can see the little helmet icons of the teams. You can watch the play unfold. Oh no, I got it wrong. Woohoo, I got it right. So no, it's real fun, and you level up. And unless it's something I'm missing, you can't really join a league, but you can level up and
you compete against other people for points.
It's a fun little thing, and their thing is too is it's a shorter play clock and there's not as many commercials, so it goes quick.
No kickoffs.
Yeah, no kickoff. So it's like you knock out a game in 2 hours. You can play this little fantasy game along to make it feel like you're doing something. It's neat. It's not something that it's like, oh man, AAF is on, I better hop on. I'll do it from time to time, but it's not something for me personally that I'm like jumping to be like, I need to play this, I need to do this, and
But a lot of really neat things coming from the AAF.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that the NFL might start using, and it's a fun different league to watch during the off season.
Yeah, and like we're getting the rap signal, so I'll be quick with this, but like I think leagues like this, like the XFL, like the AAF, that's going to be good for the NFL because it's going to force the NFL's hand with things, like the way that they're reviewing calls and they're showing the referee up in the box talking.
They have a ref up there reviewing all the plays.
And all the new, the NFL kind of has a sky cam. They're calling it something different, but like I think there's going to be changes that are done in these leagues that kind of forces the NFL's hand where they're just going to have to adapt because it's like, we're the big bad entity. We can't be bested. We're going to do it better than you. So I think these kind of random leagues, you got the Spring League, Johnny Manziel, you got the new XFL, you got the AAF. I think a lot of these different leagues, even the CFL, but that's a totally different game from the American NFL football. But I think these leagues are going to enforce changes into the NFL. I think that's going to be fun to see too, how the NFL adapts and tries to maintain the alpha.
Yeah, I'm certainly interested to see what sort of different things they could potentially take from the AAF and bring that into the NFL because they do have some pretty good ideas that they've been using here the first couple weeks.
Yep. So that's going to do it for us. I don't know if we'll be back for a week 2, but if we are, I'll be here again, and I'm Joe Bielanski.
I'm Noah Genson.